All right, good morning, everybody. Go ahead and grab your seats. Ooh, that worked. Right, good morning. Welcome to the October meeting of the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council. Looks like we've got a full house, lots of folks, lots of things going on today. So thank you everyone for being here. I think what we'll do is we'll kick it off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could stand and face the flag at the flag. Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I want to do a quick sound check for folks online. I'm looking at Deborah. Can you hear me? Can you raise your hand if you can hear okay? Michelle, good, excellent. Got the thumbs up. All right. And again, for the folks online, just raise your hand on Zoom to try to grab my attention, and we'll go there. So the first item, number 4, approval of today's agenda. So looking to the group, to the board, any changes, comments, additions, deletions for the agenda for today's meeting? Okay, seeing none in the room. All those in favor of approving today's agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposition? Okay, today's agenda is approved. Next up, number 5, the minutes from the September meeting. Everyone should have received that via email from me. It was also posted online on the website. Any comments, corrections, additions to the minutes from last month's meeting, September? Okay, looking none in the room, looking online, not seeing any. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, none either in the room or online. Minutes are approved as presented. Thank you, Carrie, for getting those put together and out. Right, next up this morning, number 6, and I've done some movement of the agenda again to try to accommodate. We've got some speakers today. I've got a presentation from the on the Wildfire Resilience and Vegetation Management Advisory Committee. So I moved the new business up towards the beginning of the agenda so we can accommodate that ahead of the other business. But just before that, we would like to welcome under new business item A, Cedar Grove Fire Safe Council. Mary is here from Cedar Grove, and today's agenda has us putting that on to a vote to bring on board Cedar Grove. So Mary, if you'd just like to introduce yourself and say a few words about Cedar Grove. Yeah, we're stand up and just get a microphone behind you there.
There we go.
You don't want to have people on the group. Thanks. I mentioned that most people like the porch. I think that is the reason why we have such a good turnout. People are interested in what we're doing. We had a recent fire on Cable Road, which is in our backyard. And that certainly was brought it home that is not it, but when. So that's what we're doing. Cedar Grove Fire Safe Council.
Well, and Mary, maybe for the group, because obviously there's been some reorganization going on with the fire safe councils within Camino Pollock. And so,
Right.
You know, maybe just and Steve has been stepping up to help with all of the fire safe council mapping area changes and working with county GIS. But I just want to make sure that we clarify, it's actually reorganizing within what was the footprint or a portion of the footprint that was Camino, correct? So it's okay.
It is a little bit of Pollock and it's a little bit kind of the borders, and then there's actually an unincorporated area of Cedar Grove that sort of made up the and Steve will notice that when he looks at the map.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Steve, what are these? The website so that the current maps for where the boundaries are. When do you think you can get it off the website?
So the all council map is updated as of last week and it's posted.
So, Steve, can you turn your microphone on? Thank you.
Sorry about that. So on the website, the all councils map is updated as of last week. We went ahead and did that, but that will now change over the next couple of weeks because we've got Cedar Grove coming in, which changes both Cedar Grove and Camino. So that'll be adjusted again. And so I'm gonna say it'll be a few days.
Okay, it's not weeks.
Before we get that done.
Thank you.
Gets a little bit variable, thanks to Eldorado County GIS, they're helping us free of charge, to do all of that, so we're a little bit at the mercy of their workload, but they've been doing a great job for us, so should be a week or two, and we'll have that done.
Great, and
Thank you.
good question. Other questions for Mary or anyone in the group relative to Cedar Grove? Yeah, Bruce.
Following up on, you say who you are. Chuck Schnell, Eagle. And following up on Steve's mentioning the maps and the GIS for the county. Will we be able to get things like the numbers of houses or population levels and so on?
So here, yes, what we're working on at the county is basically developing the data hub that will have all of that. And what's we're looking on is what is going to be sort of that outward facing piece that anyone in the public can have access to. And then what will be the additional pieces that fire safe councils, others who are doing project work, partner agencies, organizations will have access to a different, set of information. A lot of the information has become proprietary as it relates to parcel data and landowner information. So we're looking at, ways we can work through that to ensure that we all get access to do project work, but yet it doesn't compromise the data security.
There is a way to get around that. It's not cheap, but to find that information out. If they go to USPS, the Postal Service, under the business tab, they have a program called Every Door Direct. And you can outline the carrier route. It has a good map. You can click on each of the carrier routes. It'll tell you how many houses are in each area. Probably not an exact count, but it's pretty close for the purposes you might need.
Well, it'll count the route.
Yeah.
What was the very first line that you have to business or what was the very first line?
USPS.
Mary, microphone? And
We have to get more.
So the other so what I did was, thanks to Dorothy, actually. She was given a stack of information, houses and addresses, street by street. Yes. But I narrowed it down when I talked to Sean at the assessor's office. I have A through Z of all of the streets that are in my area and in Cedar Grove. And he is giving me the addresses, names, and all the information that I need is specific to my area. Does that help?
yeah, I'm curious as to, how they gave that out, but okay. So we'll go back here and then into Dorothy after that.
Ken,
You're good. You're good, Chuck.
when or who will be the contact person or how would you get access to the county's information and so on when all this gets worked out?
So right now, Steve is our contact on behalf of the fire safe councils to exchange information via county GIS. But ultimately, we'll be providing that access. It'll be an online app access for folks, and there may be something that's password protected, but there will be access for folks like many of you who are working on these projects.
When?
To come. Don't have a date exactly. Dorothy.
You don't have the challenge was we tried the UPS and they couldn't because Camino is huge and takes in Cedar Grove, which isn't recognized, and it's right the zip code. So anyway, what we did was for Firewise, we went through the county assessors and they were very helpful. It was very nice.
Excellent. There you go.
Yeah. Because this is an item to take action on, and this is a broader discussion that we should have related to our council formation, what establishes an area that is not being represented. And then when we have a new one that kind of crosses other ones, I think in the future, either the executive board or maybe Steve's already doing this, but talking about what is the standard that we're going to use to establish or process that we're going to establish the respective councils. But I want to move to, if you'll take a motion, I want to move to accept the Cedar Grove FSC formation, if you'll accept that motion.
Okay, we'll do it this way. I'll accept the motion. A second? Second, and then so any further discussion before we put it to the vote? Okay, so the motion as presented, adopt the Cedar Grove Fire Safe Council, I believe as the 29th Fire Safe Council within El Dorado County, West Slope, with obviously additional work being completed to fine tune the council boundaries, working with Steve and County GIS. So with the motion as presented, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Online, see no opposition. Okay, any opposition? Okay, yes, congratulations. Welcome, Marion. And I guess what I just add, don't stress, you're being proactive, engaged like communities are, and that's what makes all this work. So don't hesitate to reach out to anybody here in this room for help. Everyone's had to work through it at some point and continues to work on things. So you're far from alone. Great, thank you.
Signing off on you, I will turn it in so that you can scan it and put it in the system. And you're official then.
Right, thank you. Okay, so next up, before we get to the information items and stakeholder reports, the Wildfire Resilience and Vegetation Management Advisory Committee asked to put a small short presentation on today's program. It's been a number of months since folks have talked about where things are at with that group, a number of things going on, and there's a number of the folks here today that have been part of that. And so what I'm going to do, if I can get the PowerPoint up and running, is I will put that together, and I want to ask the advisory committee members who are here, including Megan, to come on up and we'll just do this together. Hi, Mark. Can everybody see that online?
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Morning. I know, I'm a little nervous. Where'd there? All right, well, good morning. And the group asked me to take the lead on the presentation, but with me today, Hugh represents the Fire Safe Council on the advisory committee. Of course, Mark Egbert representing the Resource Conservation District, Mike Blankenheim and Megan Scheelein representing CAL FIRE. And I don't think we were able to have, Ron Phillips has another commitment this morning, so he was not able to be here. And I had not heard from Tim Cordero, but essentially the advisory committee is made up of the group you see here. Oh, and the El Dorado National Forest, Scott Rogers, who I don't think was able to make it today here either. But essentially, this is the working group, the advisory committee that was put together and established by the Board of Supervisors last fall. Oops, oh, there we go. So again, the mandate for the advisory committee was after the Caldor fire. The board wanted to collaborate on lessons learned and really double down on pace and scale of efforts in the county and look to where we could further coordinate, break down silos and really enhance the many great efforts already going on in the county. As again, I talked about the working group is the Chief Administrator's Office, Fire Safe Council, the CAL FIRE Unit, the Forest, El Dorado National Forest, the Fire Chiefs Association, Fire Prevention Officers, and the El Dorado and Georgetown Divide Resource Conservation Districts. What we were asked to do is provide findings and recommendations and bring them back to the Board of Supervisors. The group did that in March of this year and essentially found that, again, just in spite of all the amazing efforts going on, it still lacked an organized and unified approach to addressing the wildfire hazard and risk in a unified way across the entire geography of the county, including the Tahoe Basin. The challenge it was identified as there's no single process for establishing priorities, coordinating projects, and allocating resources. Much of the effort has already fallen on the backs of the resource conservation districts, the fire safe councils, and others to make this work, but it's sort of been done without sort of the support of this broader effort to help identify scarce resources, particularly from some of the county organizations and agencies like Department of Transportations and others. And so the committee felt strongly that we could all do a better job of bringing that together and facilitating that coordination. Other examples include that public, and we've talked about this here before, but public outreach and messaging occurs mainly independently by different agencies and organizations that share project and educational information, sort of within the confines of their own organization or agency, based on those individual missions or assignments. But there wasn't really this cohesive, collaborative approach, not just to share each other's Facebook posts, if you will, but to truly generate the message together, whether it's on defensible space, large scale community fuels and vegetation management projects, or just overall, what the goals and objectives are in the county going forward. Again, there are multiple projects with similar goals that are being planned and implemented with not necessarily all the coordination that could happen. And the middle one there that I just skipped over, the capacity and coordination of defensible space efforts in the county clearly have been insufficient. Again, we've got organizations, CAL FIRE, county fire, fire districts within the county, Fire Safe Council, all of us working on this to some degree or space. But I think we've all talked about, from our educational efforts to how we're implementing the county ordinance, how we coordinate that with things like the Public Resources Code, the AB 38 implications with real estate sales, all of that, has been complex and challenging, and group felt strongly that a lot more work could be done bringing that together going forward. So this past summer, the working group transitioned to a permanent advisory committee. And I need to move this so I can actually read. There we go. The working group transitioned to a permanent advisory committee. It adopted the mission to incorporate the interests and leverage the resources of stakeholders to create a fire adapted and resilient El Dorado County, guided by a comprehensive wildfire prevention and preparedness strategy. The committee is essentially the same makeup as the original working group. However, the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team was added into the group to bring representation for the efforts already going on in the Lake Tahoe Basin. And it's as much as a coordination as it is anything else to ensure, particularly as the Caldor fire and others have shown us, that the divide of the Sierra Crest doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot anymore when it relates to fire and the efforts that we're working on. The organizational principles for the advisory committee, that participation is voluntary. Each agency and organization retains its authorities and responsibilities identified within its own mission. The decisions within the group are collaborative and consensus-based. This is real hard to read, but essentially, the committee put together an organizational structure that has the advisory committee there in the center. Underneath that, a number of functional breakout groups, activities have been identified. Essentially engaging into policy, planning, funding coordination, project management on the west slope, project coordination with efforts in the basin, public outreach, and data management and sharing. And a number of these, several of these groups are already staffed and moving forward. And we'll talk about a little bit of that here in a second. Progress to date. So we've talked about, you all know Maya. Well, we've hired a fire safe coordinator, Maya, through a contract with the Resource Conservation District. This is a shared position that I know many of you worked hard over the years to have something like that included. This is again, Maya's position is funded through a grant from the State Fire Safe Council, which is ultimately funded by a grant to them through CAL FIRE. Mark has graciously agreed to house the position and coordinate those efforts, but it's a partnership between the county, the Resource Conservation District, and the Fire Safe Council. So within this, we've organized a technical advisory committee to help provide Maya the guidance and support that she needs as she's out engaging in a lot of things that I know we'll talk about here probably even a little bit later. FEMA hazard mitigation grant. We talked about the county having applied for a hazard mitigation grant earlier this year. As of yesterday morning, the original application that CAL FIRE or that El Dorado County had put together, that was taken forward to the new Joint Powers Authority between CAL FIRE and the State Office of Emergency Services, the California Wildfire Mitigation Program. That grant application is being transitioned over to this new program, which is they're running a pilot program right now in 3 counties, Shasta, San Diego, and Lake, to home harden and defensible space subsets of communities in those counties. The JPA, the Joint Powers Authority, asked Tuolumne County and El Dorado County to put in an application as the next sort of considerees for this program. So yesterday morning during their joint powers meeting, they approved a $25 million project for El Dorado County to expand the original hazard mitigation grant that was approved at 10 million. That's going to transition to this new grant and be expanded. It's still in the greater Placerville area, predominantly in the Placerville Fire Safe Council area, but it's being called the Weber Creek Project. It's currently moving forward to the director of OES for final approval. Then it will be submitted to FEMA to go through all of the approval process. But what's important here is this project, if it's officially approved, will be 90% funded by FEMA, 5% funded by the state of California, and 5% funded by El Dorado County. And it includes, the proposal on the table now includes treating 525 structures with ignition resistant construction and defensible space in the defined area that was part of the original proposal in the Weber Creek area. So this has been a huge undertaking and effort. It's got a long way to go, but a lot of support to get it moving through the process, and certainly ties into a lot of other things going on in the greater Placerville area. So more to come there. We've moved the defensible space program under into this arena, and things sort of happened a bit chronologically different here, but we've moved the defensible space program into the Office of Wildfire Planning and Resilience, which part of this whole process was created on July 1st within the county administrative office. So trying to consolidate the county's responsibilities for vegetation management and pre-fire fuels mitigation into one area within the Office of Wildfire Preparedness. We talked about establishing the GIS data hub. That was one of the key recommendations of the advisory committee to the board. And then of course, develop the charter we just shared with you. The Office of Wildfire Preparedness, established on July 1st, working through the process, which has been onerous, to say the least, of hiring a permanent deputy CAO to oversee the program. That process has been multi-stepped to get here. It's included many of the partners within the advisory committee, from CAL FIRE to the Forest Service, the Fire Safe Council, and others. So continue to work on that. The office serves really as the central coordination point for stakeholders, advisory committee, and county government. This is really the way that the county's bringing itself into the fold of the things that are going on and to help provide some of that leadership and facilitate some of the coordination and help really staff the advisory committee. So it's a place we're trying to be that hub, if you will, to bring this together. And this is just a this is Megan's little stick figure flow chart to show you how, obviously, the chief administrative officer reports to the board of supervisors. This office reports to the CAO, and then again branches out to coordinate with stakeholders and facilitate the executive or the advisory committee. Just examples of what things we've been working on with just a ton of help from Mark, David Slinsky, and others. Is we've established the Greater Placerville Multi-Project Coordination effort, which has involved identifying several disparate efforts that were good efforts, but they were going on at the same time. Transportation Commission project, a significant amount of funding from the Sierra Nevada Conservancy to the RCD, as well as this hazard mitigation grant from OES. All of it kind of happening in the same space, along with other activities within the CWPP and the Placerville and Texas Hill Fire Safe Councils. So we put all this sort of under one umbrella, having discussions as to how we can align efforts, how we can align public outreach and have one plan, and really evolving to where we're looking at some almost a project facilitator to keep all of these parts and things going together. Because it's important as we're reaching out to individual homeowners in the Placerville area that we do it as a team effort, not one project is asking for one thing and then a month later somebody else's project is coming and talking to homeowners about a very different project. We're doing it all together, even though it may be coming from different funding sources and ultimately looking for a different project element. It's all going to be coordinated in one way. So huge step forward there. Coordination of the county roadside fuel reduction projects. This is something that was daylighted here just a few months ago by Patrick McDaniel from CAL FIRE, that we had overlap in what the County Department of Transportation was doing in its roadside hazardous fuels reduction work, and what we had put into several of the grant proposals with CAL FIRE to do the same work. So we have been meeting on and basically putting everybody into the same room to try to adjudicate that. And essentially, again, it's for those that have been attending, first of all, the leadership from the fire safe councils to bring this information forward and the RCD has been phenomenal. I think what we've all discovered is that there are lots of elements within the Department of Transportation, different programs that all have their responsibility doing their own thing, and they're not always necessarily even talking to each other with inside DOT. So you may have the road surface maintenance folks out doing work, which may involve clearing some vegetation. You have their right-of-way folks doing work, their maintenance folks doing work, and they've applied for grants, including and received a CAL FIRE and a FEMA grant to do fire hazard reduction. And so we had to sit down and figure out how these things overlapped, who's going to be working where. And at the end of the day, I think we all recognize that DOT's work is going to be very limited along the road right of way. And there really isn't necessarily a conflict. We're going to be moving forward with the scope as the projects were presented by all of you, both South County and the projects up on the divide. But I think what it's kind of taught us all is that we do have some opportunities to keep providing information and sharing with DOT. Really difficult to know timeframes as to when any of their projects will hit the ground. But I think everyone's kind of got a better understanding of sort of what space they're operating in. We've built some relationships and have some opportunities now to coordinate. But again, it's just an example of where we at least had an opportunity to put some folks in the room and start talking about where we're overlapping and how we can do this together. So we could talk all day. There's a lot going on. I think what I want to do before we offer up the opportunity for questions is to maybe turn it to the group, to your perspective, thoughts, things that I certainly didn't cover. So I don't know, Mike, you want to kick anything on?
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Mike Blank and I'm unit chief for CAL FIRE Amador El Dorado unit. I've been part of this working group now since January, I think, when we started meeting. And So yeah, I think the one slide I'll talk about here real quick is back to that kind of that governance slide where I had the board of supervisors at the top and kind of broke it down there. The one piece missing off of that is who does the board of supervisors work for? And they work for the public. They work for the citizens and the people that live in El Dorado County. This group in here right now, for me, really represents that kind of element of it. I think we just introduced our 29th Fire Safe Council in the county right now, which means that the individual fire safe councils around the county are community-based and involved in the community. They're small enough where they are very in tune with local concerns, local issues, local populations, all of those kind of things. So bringing that very finite perspective into this organization, I think is a really good thing. So this group here today is going to be, I think, key in driving a lot of this forward. One of something that Ken kind of touched on, again, for me, the whole kind of the overriding point of this whole thing is building efficiencies and effectiveness into what we're doing with fuel reduction work, home hardening, all things resilience, all those kind of things. Like I said, there's all kinds of efforts going on around the county. There's more money now than we've ever seen before getting infused into the system from different organizations on completing these kind of projects. And I think we'd be missing the mark a little bit if we didn't build a system that we're all a part of that didn't really address being as effective as humanly possible and efficient as humanly possible with the money coming in and the efforts being expended. So that for me is really kind of the crux of this. A slide up there that kind of talked about participation is voluntary and decisions are going to be consensus based and some of that kind of thing. For me, I think that's probably one of the key principles is exactly that. Participation in this overall project is voluntary. So to drive this forward, we've got to have a product out there that shows real benefit to why you would want to be in this participating. There's got to be some benefit to your individual organizations. We're going to ask that you do some different things as far as who to communicate with and collaborate with and sharing information and really communicating about which projects are going to be effective for your community, talking with the other councils and making sure there's not overlap in projects and some of those kind of things. So we're going to ask for a little bit different there. So we've got to be able to give something back that's going to show some real benefit to why you're going to want to put forth that effort and be involved in it. So one of the things that we're going to start working on the CAL FIRE side of things is the unit fire plan. I think hopefully you all know what the unit fire plan is and how it relates to the CWPP. But both plans have projects around the county described in them, fuel reduction projects and the such. Most of those projects, some of those projects at least, are the same in both plans right now. I think we can do a lot better than that, and we're going to start with the CAL FIRE unit fire plan. That plan's been in existence for a long time. It's had many different projects described at a CAL FIRE battalion level in there for a long time. And if you go back and you kind of read through that plan, going years back, I'm not going to say it's a static plan because we update it every year. Things change, we add things come out of it and that kind of thing. But they're very small incremental changes over time. I'm not looking to do a wholesale rewrite of that plan right now by any stretch of the imagination. But I do want to start taking a hard look at the fuel reduction projects that we have going around El Dorado County and Amador County too. But that's not necessarily this group. And to make sure they're all still valid, that they're community-based, they're geared towards structured defense, they're geared towards community protection, they're geared towards that kind of thing, and making sure all those plans are still valid. And if we need to add some, we will for sure. Part of that process of building that out is going to be our battalion chiefs coming to individual fire safe council meetings and these kind of meetings here to have these discussions. When we identify projects that we want to see, that we think we want to do, is to communicate with this group here to do exactly what we just talked about not doing, making sure we're not double dipping, we're not overlapping, and we're not missing any projects. So really getting some buy-in from this group here when those projects make the unit fire plan. From that, those same projects will be identified in the CWPP, and is my hope that as these things as we get there with the coordination piece of this, it's going to make a lot of these projects a lot more attractive to potential grants down the road and for implementation and that kind of thing. And I think the last part I really wanted to do that is I'll just say it's a little bit self-serving. CAL FIRE doesn't have the capacity to implement all these projects that we want to be doing around the county. We need these groups here. We need the community-based groups to implement these projects, to get the grants, to help with the CEQA, to hire, all those kind of things that these groups here do and do very well. we're just thinking that maybe it's time to add a little bit of efficiency into the model here. So that's what I've got this morning.
Thank you, Mike. Any others? Let's keep passing along. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Mark Egbert. I'm the district manager for the El Dorado and the Georgetown Divide Resource Conservation Districts. And, since 2002, we've been working with fire safe councils on doing projects throughout the whole county. And we've had a lot of successes. There's been a lot of achievements over time. And, initially projects were small. Fire safe councils was really, they're building awareness in the communities, building advocacy, and really a grassroots level operation. And we as an RCD, who is also grassroots, really supported those activities. The King Fire came and we realized that those community level activities needed to actually increase pace and scale and start working on a landscape level. And we have these initiatives that are underway. And so we started looking at expanding our framework and our planning delineations and making these projects larger. And that's where the Fire Adaptive 50 project came in with other initiatives, the Georgetown Collaborative and other things. And and we still maintained a lot of successes with a lot of fire safe councils, and fire safe councils began to grow. More and more of them started to pop up. And then Caldor hit, and we realized that, fire safe councils, RCDs, we need help, right? We're out there, we're trying as hard as we can. We're trying to get as many resources as we can, but, we could get a grant here and there and we could have some, support for everybody and everybody's a priority and do everything that we can, but we're spread too thin and we need help because it's like balancing a bowling ball on top of a needle, right? And the county kind of stepped up and said, yeah, we need leadership. We need to provide direction. We need a framework and we need to support you, our partners. And so that's what's really happened because capacity wise, as you know, the RCD just can't handle the load. And so we've been able to increase our capacity. Tomorrow, we're hiring at least 2 more project coordinators. And for those of you who we have projects with know how important that is. We've got a communications person, we've got, a GIS person, and we've got field techs. And that we have at least 5 foresters who are some of the best around working on the ground all the time. So we just want to be responsive and we know that we have a role, but we also want to be able to be functional and successful to support you guys. So that's where we fit within this framework. And we appreciate the county's initiative and leadership and Ken's work to recognize that so that we can be actually a good partner.
You're good.
I think one of the ways that this group can really benefit the fire safe councils is you all are out there doing a lot of the same things and maybe putting in some of the same efforts. And so things like education and messaging or applying for grants. I think there's some cases where if you joined forces, it'll save you a lot of time and also the benefits to the communities. And one of the scoring criteria with grants is the number of people that are benefited. That's certainly not the only thing, and we're not discouraging small grant applications, but there are cases where if the fire safe councils can work together and expand projects into multiple communities, I think that would be a great benefit. And this is a group that can help you come together and do that. Sorry, I'm Megan Sheelan. I'm the unit forester at CAL FIRE.
Oh, I'm good.
You good?
They're not, it's kind of. Sure, that's kind of the update. Is that there's a lot going on and I appreciate Mark's comments. It's making these kind of changes, particularly working at the county. It's slow, right? And it's been a process getting things in alignment. But every day, what we discover is there are lots of other efforts going on, and not just in the work on the ground, but in planning efforts. We're talking to Ken Payne at the Water Agency, and there's whole watershed level planning efforts going on kind of in this same space. So we're trying to get our arms around that. And this is one of the things that the Board of Supervisors asked to try to help bring together, because they're being hit up by all these different groups. They're not in the weeds every day like so many of us here in the room are. So when they hear of an initiative going on, they don't know how it fits in, or is this the right thing to get behind? I need to know more about it. And so this is really to try to help bring that together, to help better inform them and to allow them to better support the efforts we're all doing. And then they're much more comfortable if they know, we're all engaged in talking and are being efficient in the way we're doing it. So again, it's a work in progress. We just felt very important, and we'll be going back to the Board of Supervisors with an update here in the weeks to come. But we felt it was important to get back to the fire safe councils. We'll be having this presentation with the fire chiefs here in the coming weeks. Fire Chiefs Association we've spoken to so far. We'll be talking to the city of Placerville. So we're kind of, again, continuing to communicate what we're doing and where we're at. So with that, I will throw it out to there. Let's see. I start here with Chris. Sorry.
That was a nice presentation. Thank you very much. I just pulled up the Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resiliency on the county's website and saw that there's an organizational chart amongst other documents that are there. So it is a place for all of you to check. It is listed as the Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resiliency.
But I was just wondering, how do we tie in because we have federal, state, and then local government. So how do we tie in all of those agencies that you represent, some of you, and then in my experience with this Fire Safe Council, recognizing that the Grizzly Flat Fire Safe Council had for many years done improvements in the Grizzly Flat area, but it wasn't enough. I keep hearing that the Trestle project would have been a key project if it was ever done, but it wasn't done. But it was talked about for many, many years as a necessity of protecting that community. So we got some practical experience now where things haven't worked. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, Ken, how do you think that all fits together, federal, state, and then local government in terms of the advisories committees responsibility?
Bottom line in a nutshell, Chris, it's not a one size fits all. It's right. It's not just about the Trestle project as being a panacea for saving Grizzly Flat. It's about every tool in the toolbox coming together, the whole of the community. So it's starting in the center of any of our communities and working our way out. It's the home hardening component. And this is the component, we've been doing amazing work in our fuels. Obviously we need to do a lot more, but that's where a lot of the efforts have been. Now we're really looking to where the state's going and where others are going in support of hardening our communities and the resilience piece. And that's where a lot of the the stuff that Heather and Alice and so many people have been preaching to all of us for so long. We're finally getting the policy and the fiscal support to start doing some things there. And so this is really bringing together that whole component that hasn't really been a strong part of our discussion. So we're working on the things that we know make our structures vulnerable. We're doubling down on our defensible space and how we do that and how that's applied and how we communicate it and all of that. And then, how do we tie in those critical hazardous fuels treatments? And then how do we reach out, even though the sheriff's OES isn't part of the advisory committee, we are connected in terms of how do we talk about the work we do supporting their evacuation efforts. And so this group is not engaging in evacuations, but we're informing the discussions and project planning based on what law enforcement and fire needs in terms of that. So Chris, it's having these discussions every day, taking lessons learned and doing it in a coordinated way. Okay, I want to try to get to, I'm going to hit Mark for a response, and I think we'll hit Heather, and then just keep putting your hands back up so I don't miss everybody.
So primarily the design of the projects that are implemented through fire safe councils are fuel load reduction, shaded fuel break. Those would not have really contributed to the ultimate defense line of protection of a community. So if you look at some of the scenarios that interacted with Caldor, like Sly Park, we did a fuel load reduction project, but we also worked with CAL FIRE and EID, SPI, and to reduce basal area. We have a land management process that's not just a one-time thing. It's phased management, what can be supplemented with public funds, what can the land manager, landowners do on their own as well. There's several communities that need work that aren't going to be supplement or subsidized by grant funds. You've got canopy structure, you don't have a resilient condition. And that's where you need to evolve in your land management, community wildfire protection strategies. I also will say that the more you ask for, the more burden you own for maintaining these investments. And that maintenance project, Trestles is not the only project that happened in the spatial or temporal time context of our history. There's a lot of things that have happened in the history of that entire area that were not maintained. And that maintenance obligation that you are going to inherit when you ask for public funds is something you're going to have to really think about and have a plan for.
Thanks, Mark. Heather. Can we grab a microphone?
Hello,
That's so sweet.
Heather Campbell.
Can you turn it? You gotta turn it on there. Hold it up, hold it. There you go. You're good.
What?
Yeah, actually, and so far is posting it on their website today, and we'll actually attach a link to the county's website as well. Absolutely. And we'll give it to the fire safe council.
Firewise community, I'm trying to use these meetings to help get somebody to retake all the time. And so it'll go, this will go out on Facebook today. So, and the second one is very interested in the Weber Creek project, to retrofitting the homes and stuff like that. Do you have a defined boundary area yet? And if you do, when can that be released to the public?
We do have a defined boundary area. It was one of the 7 areas first presented when we were working with FEMA and OES last year, or earlier this year. It was the one selected. We just reduced the size a bit to try to make it fit within this program. It's probably something, let me see how we can share it. We're literally going to spend this week getting the sub application transferred over from our original project to this one. And I think once we get it submitted and get the approval of OES to move it forward to FEMA, I think that within the next week, I think that'll be a good time to share this out, because I think it'll be more definitive. We'll have confirmed the boundaries.
Notice. Send it to me, because, since all my project area was Weber Creek. I would like to help in letting public know that at some point, sometime, not today, definitely not yesterday, that, maybe some relief will be coming their way.
Absolutely. And Heather, there's going to be a pretty significant outreach effort over the next year once things are initiated for this. Absolutely. We're going to.
Reminder that we need a fire safe council.
Got it. Okay, let's see. Let me grab Deborah online, and I'll go back to Tamara, and we'll keep working our way. She's been on hold here for a bit. Deborah.
Morning, everybody. It's thrilling, all this wonderful coordination for preparedness and resilience. Couple of questions. I want to make certain that the habitat aspect of wildfire preparedness or resilience gets mixed in, and that it's also a part in the same way home hardening, in the same way that access and transportation related is included as part of the overall long-term, not just removing vegetation, but replacing it with something that can really withstand the test of time. I did want to, my question, Ken, was what's the status of the selection of a person to head that office of wildfire resiliency?
It's
I'll take my question offline.
Oh, you got it. Thanks. So it's again, the processes sometimes take time, and so it's this one has been kind of working its way through. So we hope to have, as I indicated earlier, been going through a pretty exhaustive process of interviews and reviews, et cetera, and hoping here that the county will have a decision forthcoming. I wish I could put a day on it, but nobody wants it to happen more than me, because right now I'm sort of a program of one, so and that's only part-time. So we'll get it going here pretty quick, and that get the person out and connected with everybody. Thanks, Deborah. Okay, let me come back to Tamara. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
She had a question on the environmental.
Oh, yeah, and Mark can expand, but at the end of the day, all of these projects we're talking about fit within and use the existing and the appropriate processes for CEQA and NEPA review. As we specifically talk about the hazard mitigation grant, it'll probably be the largest single piece of the front end of that project will be getting through the National Environmental Policy. That's not vegetation treatment components, it's all falling in line with the state and the National Historic Preservation Act, any structure over 45 years. So even with home hardening, if it's over 45 years, we have to ensure, we applied with that act. And Mark's got significant guidelines for all of the work that goes on out in that project.
We'll undergo CEQA, and we do due diligence in CEQA. And I know, like Cameron knows very well, we work with BLM and we went through a very extensive EA process, environmental assessment process. So we do diligence on all the CEQA, and I asked you guys to understand that as we go through. But on the larger scheme of things, wildfire resiliency measure of success and an outcome that the county overall wildfire resilience strategy is going to achieve. But we also know that that's balanced with economic resiliency, ecological resiliency, hydrologic resiliency, and productivity, right? And so we all want to be kind of going back to our normal lives at some point in time and enjoy going to the park or the river or the woods instead of coming to a meeting talking about the fears that we have with fire. So if we achieve those goals, we'll have recreation productivity, economic productivity, and have the overall functionality of our community back.
Perfect. Couldn't have said better, Mark. Thank you. Tamara.
Questions and comments. The first is, do you have a date for when you're going to be doing your update to the board of supervisors?
No, it's not. We haven't had. It's not calendared yet.
Like to know about that and comment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Participate in a post-mosquito fire meeting that we're trying to put together for 13. Reaching out to RCD as well, just in Georgetown. So opportunity for the community to come together and talk about what went well, what didn't, and look towards the future. We hope it's a good opportunity for people to become more fire aware as well. So that'll be happening on the 13th. And I just wanted to express my ongoing thoughts and concerns around the capacity issue for implementing projects on the ground. On the divide, we've been pretty successful with RCD's help with getting a lot of grant money, and I actually feel like we could get more, but at this point, we're not even applying because it just feels like there isn't the capacity to implement projects. So that's a bummer, right? Like you have so much to do, and yet we don't have. So I love that there's talk about capacity, but I would hope that there's also looking ahead to kind of have, even though it's almost like we're struggling to even catch up with what we're doing. And I would encourage us to anticipate that there's, let's take advantage of all this money and build our internal, on the ground capacity so that we can actually get these projects in quickly. So that's just kind of, and then the maintenance issue, talking about it on the divide, how we're going to maintain all this stuff, and the scale of the maintenance that's going to be required and the cost is not realistic to expect that communities are going to just do this. And so I don't know what conversations are happening from a policy and advocacy level, but there's got to be money coming down for even these projects too. So if there's any advocacy that's happening on your part, I would encourage it to be there, that thinking about what's going to happen in 5 years and this is all going back.
Good points. Yeah, we could spend some time but you're spot on, and I think there's more to come there. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Great, Alice, and then we'll move out to the group.
Thank you. It was so nice to hear the whole overview of what's going on. I appreciate that. I had a couple of questions also. One has to do with education. There are large parts of the county that are in the little fire safe council. There are, of course, the big one. And they're getting educated from master gardeners, from Capital Native Plant Society. And yet those aren't part of this. And I know you're trying to get the messaging to be the same, but I feel like those groups somehow need to be addressed. And maybe that's what that little stakeholders is over on the right-hand side, I'm not sure. But if so, I just don't know how that's happening. And so I feel like the messaging needs to be including them too. A lot of information is getting put out there. You know, that person. So do you want me to just stop at one?
Well, yeah, no, and you're 100% right, Alice. And one of the discussions that the county has had is that, yeah, how are the folks that aren't in a fire safe council or in a firewise community for whatever reason, they don't have active folks, it's whatever the reason, how do we, and it's like, I think Heather's talking, how do we get them engaged? How do we help them? They may not be able to organize, but yet they may be in an area that is significantly at risk. And so part of this planning process is to identify everything and figure out where our gaps are. And public outreach always comes to the top as one of our key deficits. And so don't have all the answers. That's what we're hoping to get to by continuing to work on this. But I think there are messages and things that we want to continue to work on here at the Fire Safe Council and others that everyone can have access to. So it is a work in progress, and it's a challenge that you're 100% on.
So
No, and no, to answer the last part of that, yes, the advisory group was meant to be small to try to be flexible but yes, there's a bigger box in that org chart, and you couldn't see it well on the slides, but as Chris said, go to the CAO website, it's there, and you can see there's a list of just a list of stakeholders, not all inclusive, but the whole idea of reaching out to and engaging more on these issues.
it's not just CEQA and NEPA on the big projects, but it's also the information that gets out to the individual homeowner about how, you know, certain native plants are actually more fire resistant than some ornamentals, habitat, all that kind of stuff. So it's also down at the homeowner level. And so again, kind of the same thing. Another question I had though was this wonderful pilot program going on in Weber Creek. So excited about that. But of course, that's a small set of the whole county. What's it a pilot program for? What's the idea in the future that this is going to expand into?
So the idea being, and where the state started, is it's a pilot program to see how it targets initially disadvantaged employees. County doesn't come up as high on that scale as some of the other counties in the state, but the fire risk for El Dorado County really eclipses that. And so the pilot program, as it was initiated by the state, was to see, can we have an effective program that scales up based on income levels, et cetera, and get, in our case, 100% compliance within an area to really truly bring 100% of the homes in an area up to a standard of home hardening and defensible space. The idea is saying, how can a program like this work? How do we take applications? Is it effective? What are the challenges associated with getting people to participate? And for those that may exceed the lower moderate income level, in this case, the county's chipping in its match to help with that component. So it's to see the effectiveness of it. And if we can demonstrate this as a model, not just here, but in other areas that have different demographics around the state, then it can be used, one, as an educational tool, but two, hopefully there's continued investment. Just like we're seeing CCI money coming down for fuels, it would be great to see continued state and federal investment in continuing to work on our communities across the state. So it's not only the state, it's how we can implement this targeted area, but it's a component of other projects going on. We're careful not to confuse everything else, but the RCD and the Fire Safe Council and the Transportation Commission, there's all kinds of other work going on that are putting in fuels reduction. They're all kind of components to this. So we're working towards, you know, multiple aspects of all the tools in the toolbox in one area.
Then last question was, I'm still trying to get a handle on plans that are in town. So I know Cal Fire has the unified like CWPB, and then the county one has the big CWPB. Does RCD have this kind of a plan too, or these the plans now? Are you want to the Cal Fire plan kind of, or?
You hit on one of the bigger challenges that we can talk about.
So the RCD has a strategic plan, you know, it's an annual plan, and it basically says, it's partnership and opportunity. So, we know that, so you mentioned, so the Forest Service has a Sierra Nevada framework. They have a lot of projects that are underway. We're partnering with them on implementation of different projects, right? We've got several contracts with the Forest Service to do different projects. EID had a great meeting with EID. They're coming to us with a bunch of projects saying we want to get help with this. SMUD, their transmission corridor, expanding out on that. Obviously, the massive partnership with Fire Advocate, we're still expanding out on that. The El Dorado County Water Agency, the Upper American River Drought Contingency Analysis and Plan, and the Upper Watershed Management Plan, and the Water Smart Bureau Reclamation, $1.8 million we got to put on federal land for the water intake systems at Grizzly Flats. The Emergency Forest Recovery Team, the Governor's Action Item 1.12, which over the last year is authorized, brought in over in the county to the RCD almost $28 million to implement $17 million of that since Caldor by the end of November. So we have millions of dollars going out, over 17 contractors working for us right now, and we are then looking at the fire safe councils, you know, and responsive to them. And we've got several projects with fire safe councils, some grants that we help write, some hydro, you know, and then we have individual landowners. So our strategic plan is to be responsive, but we've been responding and we haven't said no a lot, you know. So again, I'm going to revert back to the reliance of coordination of strategic priorities, sharing resources and balancing where those priorities go. And, you know, it's so again, that's kind of where we're.
Well, and Alice, to answer your question, I mean, right, no, there isn't one plan. And that's why Mike brought up what he did. We have a great CWB, but it's a collection of, you know, 24 different project potential areas. There are the voids areas in between where there are no councils. And so the whole idea is, how do we take a step back, take a 50,000-foot look at all these things going on, all the plans. Right now, the safety element of the county general plan is being rewritten, right? And so we've been talking to county planning saying, well, it would be nice if the, you know, fire hazard mitigation, all the elements that go in there, it's informed with other aspects. The sheriff's OES is about to put out a contract to rewrite the local hazard mitigation plan. So we've chatted with them saying, well, it should be, and they agree. Wouldn't it be nice projects in there that are aligned with CAL FIRE and the fire safe councils, and they're in agreement? But it's kind of like that game of whack-a-mole, right? Every day you find something and you uncover 5 more efforts going on that you're trying to bring in. And so it's a work in progress, but yes, the county fires and it's in the county strategic that we will build a wildfire resilient El Dorado County. And the key task under that is you will develop a wildfire strategy that encompasses every square foot of the county. Well, and I think that's the big piece. That what's really evolved here is the RCD has become this operational and logistics arm of getting this work done. What Mark needs is help providing the guidance on, help set some priorities so that when 25 of us come to say, we want you to be our project manager, it's like, whoa, I can't, you know, where do we need to work and how do we process? So that's all the kind of conversation we're having. So oh yeah, sorry, Megan, you had your.
I wanted to address a portion of one of your questions about the education and outreach. So the structure of the office has the advisory committee, and then there's 8 working groups under it. And one of those is public information and outreach. And so I think that's where all that could come together. And when that working group is formed and starts working with the local community members, I think that's where you could bring folks like the master gardeners in and get a consistent message out.
Great, let me know when that forms.
Okay.
If you look at the org chart online, you'll see that CAL FIRE is listed as the people doing that. So go talk to me. So let me scoot to let's go to Lester and then we'll.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate sort of again, what Deborah said, encouraging, broadening the stakeholders, we need to be more inclusive, and not to expect that if you're waiting to see what a NEPA to be this for the solution for the direct incorporating broader perspective, you're already too late. So, really encourage you to be earlier in the planning process.
Thank you. Chip.
I wanted to ask about the federal lands, which haven't been mentioned much, but I understand they're 2/3 or more of the county forest areas, federal. What plan is she coordinating on that? Getting those fuel reduction needs.
Well, to be honest with you, what we've discovered is that's where most of the effort's been going on is in the forested watershed, at least from a planning perspective. When you look at all the work on the South Fork of the American River, you look at what the water agency is doing right now and others, and Mark's connected into a lot and been part of lots of those. What we haven't done a very good job is connecting what all is going on there down here, really that Highway 49 West piece. And when you look at the SOFAR charter, one of the things talks about the fire resilient communities. Well, we haven't been able to connect really communities to what's going on up in that upper watershed. And so a big piece of this is bringing all that in together and focusing again, more efforts on where the people are and how we can work, because we're finding obviously so much of the loss to these communities is associated with home to home, ignition, all those things in the built environment. And that's where the county really wants to step up and have, play more of a role, which it needs to play. But the challenge is there's a ton of science and a ton of studies and work going on in those upper watersheds. We need to translate what that is down to where all of us in the community understand what that is and tie it together. There's bringing the Forest Service is very much at the table, but just been a challenge trying to communicate how those efforts tie into the rest. So, sure.
Everybody else is having that. These are building, we are evolving at the speed. We are growing our ability to get work done on the ground. And so we are taking a hard look at Forest Service land adjacent to homeowner or private land and working on ways that we can implement those that fuel reduction piece completed. This isn't going to be a fast process, so we are working on doing it. We're trying to build our way that capacity moving forward. Just in case anybody don't know, my name is Cody Waters. I am Chief 3 in charge of fuel reduction on forest level for the Colorado National Forest. And so I don't think everyone knows the Forest Service, Colorado, we have 4 districts. So when folks are dealing with certain fuel areas that you want to talk to somebody, going to talk to your local ranger or your battalion chief, I would say the ranger first. Those are the folks that are actually getting work done on the ground. Today, I brought 2 field out ranger reach out to. I brought 2 of the field battalions because those are the folks that are actually getting field work done on the ground. So you should have it. So for Pacific, we have Rob Scott, he's here, and then for Georgetown, we have Anthony Sagona, and they want to show their support too, right? Because we haven't been actually change that, right? We are in this changing and evolving time to try to make it so we are showing ourselves and we are changing to a whole more real. So that's going to be an ever-evolving change. So just FYI, we'll keep trying to educate what's going and how it moves forward. It looks like the council will plan on growing our capacity, getting more contracts on the ground, and seeing more folks that actually see what we're doing on the ground. So that's just hiding behind something to get the work that we're doing. So hopefully in the future I can get other 2 battalions here. If you have any questions, feel free to talk to people and go see what we got.
I got a question for you. Like to meet you. Retired Forest Service. And
retired Forest Service. There are 9 projects in Placerville that are in Holden. Have been identified, marked it all the legal work. So you guys start, somewhere, I'm still mark out the funding to start doing these little, sections for fuel reduction, but the key ones for me have always been on Lynx Trail. That was very high up on the district rangers list of project areas to do. That's been about 8 years ago now, which is normal, people. Don't think this is normal. Any chance you have an idea when the Lynx Trail in Holdings are going to be done? Because that's that Weber Creek puzzle that they're doing. The FEMA work for.
They should be there in the next week. That we're operating on Lynch Trail right now.
Well, and I would definitely, and to get into, I would definitely encourage you guys to link up afterwards and get into the weeds on it for sure, Heather. And perfect. All right. Thank you, Jacoby. Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we could probably do this all day and folks will be back more, but thanks for letting the group take so much time and the questions. And thank you for that. Okay. So moving on with the agenda, item 7A Chair's report. I'll defer. I don't have it. I talked a lot about what I've been working on, so I'll defer that, but I'll go to 7B. And Hugh, do you have anything from the Vice Chair's perspective?
No, not a lot. I'm still just attending all of the working groups and committees that you just heard about. I'm there representing you. I want to try to make sure that the Fire Safe Council's got our flag planted in all of these discussions. And so I continue to do that. The only other little thing that some of you won't affect a lot of you, but we did do some stuff with the fair. We're getting ready, just so you know, next year's fair. We're going to do the same thing next year we did this last year. And so some paperwork's gone out on that. Ken sent an email out to all the folks involved yesterday. So we're moving forward with that.
So clarification, it's Hugh and Alice are coordinating for all of the fire safe councils. They didn't go out to the associate councils. We're partnering with the other fire and resource agencies. So the Forest Service, the RCD, the fire chiefs will all be together again in a different location, hopefully better.
So that's coming. And once I get it up and running, I'll hand it off to Alice. And so from the Fire Safe Council standpoint, she'll be the contact for that. She didn't know that, but she does now. So that's what I do. And I'll continue to coordinate with the FPOs and that sort of thing. So that's all I'm up to.
Thank you, Hugh. Secretary's report, anything from you? I'm going to turn that on for him. Karen.
Thank you. On the, a couple items on the, recently, you know, we purchased all this fancy equipment for Zoom meetings and it's not cheap. And we also have other equipment that we keep at another building that is our pop-ups and things that other councils use and borrow at times. And we made a decision to check into the insurance to get our property, that sort of property covered. So we did, and it was about $365 a year, something that I think that we can more than afford and protect our assets that we own. And with that, I want to remind everyone that because with some of this, we had to tell them which things we lend out. For instance, our pop-ups, our little games, things like that. So I want to remind everyone that we do have a form on the web page, and it's an equipment form that when you borrow equipment and take it out of there, we need to keep track of it as well. And this form helps us do that. We know who has our equipment, the lending out equipment and taking it to their event, and we know that it's returned to us. It happens. So please remember to get your request form in and sign out the equipment. The other item I'm getting a lot of requests for insurance certificates. You have 2 forms on the web page. This one, the event job insurance, is mostly for your regular meetings, regular gatherings that you have. This one is your special event form. So if you have a special event going on, you want to fill that out. And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need help with it or need any information. With that, I'm sorry.
Lister.
I was curious, individual fire. Equipment was being lent out, other fire rate conference. Should we, or is there a way to that incorporate within the inventory or? The insurance also?
I'm not sure about that, actually. I wouldn't.
I don't know, maybe, I don't know, Steve, if you have any history, obviously the associate councils are covered for insurance when it comes to meetings, et cetera. But I don't know about property, if we've ever even addressed that, assuring associate.
Not specifically, I don't think it's ever come up.
So maybe let's think about that, Lester, and if we think it's significant, probably can come, we'll think about how we might want to address that.
Equipment alone, we had to make a list of absolutely everything and its value. So
Yeah. Okay, I've got Ernie and then Chris.
Just a quick update, and I'm glad you brought this up. Is that, as I mentioned in the briefing the last time, the Greenland costs a lot, $8,000 equipment and materials, things like that. We had asked earlier, it seems like years ago, is there any possibility of insurance? And there was none. And so it's just food for thought. Is that some of the associated fire safe councils do have quite a bit of items that could possibly be insured. Just food for thought.
I can also check into whether or not they can take out their own insurance.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll take it back to the executive board based on that and sort of have a discussion on how that might look, what options are, and have some more discussion, because it's definitely a valid issue. Chris, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
I believe it's something we ought to look at is equipment rental facilities within the respective county. As you just heard, there's one out at Grizzly Flat at the old school now that has been set up. It's the first one, I believe, of its kind, at least in El Dorado County. But I was talking to Carolyn Brooks. She's the director of libraries. And we were talking about this lending equipment facility and said she thought that it ought to be something more in El Dorado County than it is currently. So I think this is just the beginning, I believe, of a discussion about equipment lending as has been set up in Grizzly Flat. I just wanted to let you know that was an important topic.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, well, like I said, we'll bring it back to the e-board where we can spend some more time going through what we think the pros and cons and challenge would be, and probably be reaching out to others for more questions. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. Moving on to 7D Treasury Report, Janet. Yep, you're good.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who reviewed the treasury report, the highlights this month, and I'm going to steal a little bit of thunder from the grants group, is that we actually received our first federal grant reimbursement checks. $16,000 is reported on this report from the Stevens Authority grants. And then we also received another check from the BLM grant after the first of the month for another $94,000. So Mark coming your way. It's coming your way, John.
Checks in the mail, checks in the mail.
So that's very exciting that we actually got the. Need to be in a separate banking account, so we are initiating that currently. And finally, we exhausted, have completed all of our PG&E funding for defensible space, and so that grant will be placed.
And if you noticed a kind of a change to the sort of the grants matrix, we were kind of collaborating with Janet on trying to put them all in one place. So we could kind of see by sort of funding by organization, Forest Service, or like it was federal, state, local, other. Certainly helped me get a better grasp on for what's out there currently that we're with that. Any questions, Janet, on the grants? Mark.
No, we are up to speed, with all the trainings and with the reporting requirements. So you guys, as council, the fishery and staff, make sure we're all on the same page so you know what how we're reporting on the assignment of responsibilities and how it's creating our invoices. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
I make a move to approve this report as presented. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Any opposition? All right, thank you again, Janet, for keeping the money where it belongs. All right, so next up, we have partners reports, and I know we've already done some of these, but I don't see anybody from BLM online or in the room. Just make sure I didn't miss Jason or a rep. Okay. I'll defer back to Patrick or Megan. Anything addition from CAL FIRE that you want to update on?
Most people probably know. Fire prevention grants.
Oh, thanks, Lester. It's a taste we do with everybody.
I don't have a date before self-grant.
Great, thank you, Patrick. Looking online, nothing. Okay, item E3, the Office of Wildfire Preparedness, pretty much giving you everything going on there. I just double checking. I don't see anyone from the Fire Chiefs Association, either online or in the room.
Hey, Ken, I'm on this quarter.
Oh, hey, Tim, sorry, I don't see it on my screen. If I'd have known, I would have had you on the other program. So just remember, Tim is our representative from the fire chiefs on the advisory committee. So Tim, you can have whatever time you want right now to fill in or correct what we said as a group.
Oh, perfect. And I've got plenty of time here, so we'll I'll try to keep it brief for you. Yeah, on behalf of the Fire Chiefs Association, again, as Ken mentioned, the presentation they did for the group today will be available at our next Fire Chiefs meeting, which is November 2nd at Station 85 in El Dorado Hills at 0900, if anybody else would like to attend. For the Fire Chiefs Association, also on January 25th, tentatively, we will have a presentation from CAL FIRE on their updated fire hazard severity zone mapping. That's the tentative date for that with their release. That will be open to the public. That will be 0900 at the Fireman's Hall there in Diamond Springs, where you're at today. Also, all your fire departments are going through the code revision for the fire prevention officers that they've been working on. That's a 3-year project that they do. I see they're next on the list, so I'm gonna steal their thunder on what they're working on in the fire code revisions. And then just kind of on behalf of the fire chiefs, kudos to the fire safe councils and all the work that's being done by these groups. We all know that the fire insurance has been an issue for a lot of our community members. it's hitting the local fire districts. This year, last year, a lot of districts saw significant increases. This year, the increases are even more significant to your local fire districts. A lot of them are reporting, much like my own personal district, where we're seeing like our rates doubling. So it's impactful. So the work that these groups are doing, hopefully we can all unite and make things a little more wildfire resilient and see some decreases in our insurance revenues. That's kind of where we're at with the fire chiefs. Any questions, I'm happy to answer, but end of report.
Thank you, Tim. Could you repeat the date that CAL FIRE is presenting the fire hazard severity zone?
Yes, January 25th of 2023, 0900 right there in the Fireman's Hall where you're at today. And done.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Tim? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Fire Prevention Officers Association, as I mentioned, Ron has been another commitment today. Looking to see, do we have someone else from the fire prevention officers on? Yeah, introduce yourself and.
Good morning, Luke Shepherd, with Lakeland County Fire Field Group at G Cordero. Actively working snow months on refire code, an option or subsequent to that code. It is a bit of a lift. It was code. We are wrapping now. Goal is to have all the local districts essentially have the same ordinance. So there are several changes there are to California Fire Code, where the local districts, the local national pay differences. Not really consistency. Actually, the worry. But county level, I think the districts board. We go to sometimes to affect on the right hand. Youth. So, or other than that, highlighting.
It is.
You have questions about fire code? It's option with its. Out there, has over town fire is very. Also, yes. One of my extracurricular activities is I'm a planning commissioner for the county of District 2. Couple of subjects that have come up most recently, and I've been exploring to find out how much the fire districts are involved. That SB 35 and 9, we're talking about fire severity zones, high and very high, in terms of residential projects, multifamily specifically, and then fire hardening. What do you have? What you guys got cooking on both of those subjects? Fire severity zones and then the fire hardening for these residential. Is there anything going on? For the fire severity zone mapping, Cal Fire puts those out for sort of the holding those. That's their evaluation of it. The code requirements for those things. Typically, you're going to have, restricted setbacks and chapter 7 and go into those material requirements in there, as well as your on new construction. That's the place kind of for me. It's the private typically university. Was kind of easy. Marketing materials. Just a follow-up on that, the fire severity zones. What I'm looking for as a planning commissioner is whether or not the fire prevention officers, when a project comes up and it goes through technical advisory committee, that's something that the fire prevention officers are looking at to see whether a project is in or out of those very high fire severity zones. So it's more of just how are you on a practical basis operating with the maps, not necessarily that you're part of making the maps up, but how are you working with those maps and making sure that you are. If you don't have any comments, that's also. So when the project comes in, it's in a very high subdivision, then a fire safety plan is required. And we, each agency handle that as it comes to their particular district. And we find CAL FIRE, the person who prepared that fire safety plan has to be sort of vetted and accredited, if you will. It could be somebody who put together a leading plan or a local plan. So those are absolutely taken into consideration. Most of our district is in higher, very high, so kind of bread and butter. We do that budget process. Absolutely something that gets evaluated and it's part of that Google process. We don't have that, we're not able to forward after this. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, well, next up was the ENF with Jacoby. I think Jacoby stepped out, but it sounds like you guys are covered. Anything else you would like to add from the forest? All right. Thank you. Very much appreciate you all being here. Mark at the RCD, anything in addition that you want to add?
Launching a bunch of contractors. We've got operations going up along in Sierra Club right now, trying to open that use permit area open. And just different away, so.
Thanks, Mark. Eric Brown reached out from SMUD and he's on vacation this week. He's absolutely promised to be here next month. So Mike Webb reached out from PG&E and he's not able to be here today because it looks like there's a north wind event forming for the weekend, particularly in the northern half of the state as this front passes. So PG&E is preparing for public safety power shutoff potentiality, not in El Dorado County, but in multiple northern California counties, Fresno, Glenn, Monterey, San Benito, Shasta, Stanislaus, and Tehama. So actually kind of a composite there. So he's working on putting their operational plans together. Watch your weather this weekend. But again, he does not put El Dorado on his list, but he's committed to being back next month. And yes.
Yes, Board of Supervisors. There was a presentation by PG&E, their public information officer for our area was there. It was a very, very good presentation. So if you go to the agenda item, I believe it was 10 o'clock time specific or around 10 o'clock. You can pick up on the PowerPoint that they used. And then if you want to watch the video of the board meeting, you can see the dialogue between the Board of Supervisors and PG&E related to public safety. And I thought it was a well done presentation. And Mike Webb's comment or his name came up as one of the people who we are dealing with more directly. One of the better people in terms of public connection. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And then lastly, I don't see Sheriff's OES on. I don't see Sergeant Bear or another rep there. So we'll circle back with them for next month. And so before we jump into committee reports, I wanted to give an opportunity for the West Slope Foundation just to stand up and introduce themselves and give us that quick elevator of whom you are. And
first of all, thank you for inviting us to come and speak today. Those of you that don't know us, We are the tool bank up in Grizzly Flats. That's one of our programs. In fact, we were told it wouldn't happen and we said yes to it, so. That's where we stand with that. But I wanted just to let you guys know that we do have a new program that is starting. We received a nice grant from the Listos program to create a resiliency program for our community. And I know that there's a lot of information already out there, but this is more for the community. What do you need to know? What do you need to know to help protect your home, help protect your neighbors? I know that this information is out there, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a single voice. So when the next disaster strikes, we don't have people going, where do we go to look for information? What do we need to pack? I lost my home up in Grizzly Flats. And so this is personal. This is very, very personal to me. But we are working hard. We're going to be reaching out to a lot of the fire state councils if we haven't already. Terry is with me. She is the administrative assistant for our resilience program. So you'll probably hear from her. But we are looking to create a collaboration where we're bringing all of that information to one easy location for the community, starting in South County. But another thing that we're working on within the Listos is we're going to start creating and forming our lab. Currently, we have a long-term recovery group set up for Caldwell. Part of this resiliency plan will also explain to other communities, how do you set up that long-term recovery group? What does your VOAD look like? Right now, El Dorado County does not have a VOAD. We're trying to change that. So part of this program is to create that bigger kind of volunteer organizations, activity fasters, giving everybody something to do, giving people a job. So we're looking to reach out to everybody to try to get that single voice. So if you have any questions, we're here to help. We have a couple of cards, or you can just visit us at westcoastfoundation.org. Contact us through there. We will be happy to engage you.
Jennifer, will you be able to stay till after the meeting? Perfect. So I know we're squished on time today. So I think lots more conversations to come with West Slope Foundation on how to coordinate some of this and the value added with us partnering where we can. And so I would say, yes.
Just to say, I've been hearing more and more about you. I found out about the tool area. That what I should be concerned about is just what you're saying being consistent with the county and its office, and then with the council, the group that you're associated with, because we can't have different information being sent out for.
100% agree. And Jennifer's reached out, and I think that's why I wanted to start kind of breaking down the myths, right, and get at least put some names with some faces. But we've got some work to do, because I clearly have the same concerns from multiple levels, that because oftentimes the fire safe councils are saying we want to be the one voice. And so I think we just have to sit down and figure out how we leverage each other's abilities, skills, and resources to make that all happen.
Totally agree. We're not going
Great, thank you. Okay, I know last or not last, but it's certainly taken a while to get to grants, but it's probably one of our most important pieces right now. So I want to, for item 8A, defer to Pat and Jessica for the update.
Thank you, Ken. We've got lots going on with agreements being signed with an RCD, and quarterly reports are due for CAL FIRE now. For those of you that have CAL FIRE grant, even if you haven't made much progress, you still have to report that. But there's two really important things that I'd like to convey to you today. We'll start with the easier one, I guess, and that's the hazard tree mitigation grant that we received. Heather and I met yesterday, went over a draft RFP. We're going to make it a two-step procurement process. We're going to have a pre-bidders meeting with forestry management companies of registered professional foresters, and we have a list of those that actually EID has used 4 of them, so we'll kind of piggyback on their contacts and reach out to other agencies. And we want to have a pre-bidders meeting where we present to them the concept, the RFP, and get their feedback before we go out with a formal solicitation. So that's kind of where we are. We still have, like the progress will be reported last time, we still anticipating opening for applications in 1 February 23. So we'll see how we can progress toward that goal. The other thing that's of interest to each fire safe council here is that in order for you to have a grant, receive a grant, you need to have an agreement with the county fire safe council, this group, because we are, if you want us to be the fiscal sponsor. In other words, the corporation that legally is responsible for signing those grants and implementing the grants. So, and in the past, we just said, hey, we'll take all comers, whoever wants to submit a grant, put up your hand, and we'll consider it. That's when we were much smaller and the world was not as complex. We're gonna be coming out to you with an email this week that says, if you want to submit, as Patrick mentioned, the CAL FIRE grants are probably going to hit the street here shortly. But if you want to submit a grant, please fill out a little, it's a very short fiscal sponsor request that says, hey, we want to submit a grant and we want you to be the fiscal sponsor. And here's a very brief description of what we want to do. Here's a very rough budget of what we think it'll cost. And then we'll collect all of those and try to find out, there's 3 categories. One is planning. So those of you who do CWPPs, and I know we've got create a CP for their. So planning is one area. You can submit one request for planning. Community outreach and education is another area of grants if you want to submit a proposal for that. And then the third area you can submit is probably where the bulk of our work is, the fuel reduction, hazard mitigation, roadside clearance kind of thing. So we'll be sending that email out and requesting that you, even if it's not a CAL FIRE grant, if you have no idea where the money is going to come from, you just say, we want to have a grant to do one of these 3 things or all 3 in the coming years. Please submit those to us by the end of November, which will cross a little bit with the release of the CAL FIRE grant, I believe. A couple of caveats. One is you can do, like I said, 1 or all 3 of those or none. And the proposal should be coordinated through the council and signed by the council chairperson. We've been getting a few end runs of people saying, hey, I'm with this council, I want to submit a grant. And sometimes the Community Fire Safe Council board is really not aware of what's going on. So it needs to be coordinated through the quote chain of command, if you will. Like I said, once we get them together, we'll meet with the grants committee and say, here's the ones that I think we can bundle, like the CWPP, the planning. If we got 4 or 5 of those, we can put them together and go out maybe with a proposal to first of all, to the grant. And I think have a better chance of success representing many communities instead of just unique communities. Same thing is true with the fuels reduction. We take those and through the grants committee, bundle them, bring them to the e-board and say, here's what we think, what do you guys think? And probably also should coordinate through the resiliency group so there's a county-wide perspective of what's going on. we'd also ask that if your council has grants in progress, like Cameron said, do you really want to try to hog another grant, and can you do it? So if you have completed 50% of your project that's in work right now, please refrain and consider submitting a grant proposal for additional work in the following years. All our intel says that there's a lot of money out there, and it's gonna be out there for the next several years, so we ask that you anticipate. And just to remind, we are the legal entity, the corporation that has to sign the agreement, so that's kind of why we're trying to get things organized, get our hands on what's coming down the pipe. So with that, open good questions. Thanks.
So Pat, if you are a satellite of the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council, and we are, and you want to submit a grant, is that information on the website? Is it just we submit something to you, or is there a form?
Oh, we'll send you an email with the form and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be coming out like this week.
So that would mean that because we're a satellite of this council, you guys would handle the money for us?
Yes.
Okay,
Only if it's accepted as a project.
right,
Yeah,
of course.
hopefully there'll be money to handle. Any other questions, comments? Okay, end of report. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, there's lots, that's going to ramp up here soon. Lots going on, and appreciate the efforts of Heather and Pat and Jessica and the group. And Janet trying to sort it all out with the money, so. Okay, 8B Governance Committee, Karen, it's not really a committee, but Karen has her, oversight of governance, and I always just like to double check that we. Okay, thank you. Okay, now another place we'll probably have a little bit of discussion here, but we're going to have some more discussion with some of the e-board afterwards. But 9A, well, we'll get the defensible space. Let me start with 9A, the chipping program, Pat and Jessica.
Okay.
You need to know.
Jessica, Isabel, I can talk.
No, but they can't hear you.
Oh, online.
Wherever they're at.
Okay, like I can scream.
Please don't. Yeah, please.
So the chipping program is going really well. Last month we had lost a contractor, unfortunately, but our contractors that we were still contracted with picked up all the slack. We are currently up to date with all job requests. Last month, we only completed 22 jobs, and we are kind of under margin in terms of job output. I don't know the words I'm looking for. I think that's what, yeah. So this has allowed us an opportunity to open the program. We got permission to accept 2 job requests per address per annual year. So that is something that you can inform your communities of. If they've already requested chipping for the year, they do have an opportunity to do it again before 2023. Hopefully, we will be able to keep up with the workload. And with that being said, we also took on a new contractor. I want to congratulate Hargo. Nakona is here, and she will be working with us from here on out in our chipping program. We're very excited to have you work for us. Other than that, we're doing really good.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, we have a question in the back from Lester.
In the past, we will do the selected information from the chicken program to identify how much work was done within our fire station. And clearly, so having that
Address.
just wait for the spreadsheet to be available to the fire station council. We just go and sort through on the road and the zip codes that come up with what was done within our fire. And I don't know.
Are you talking about the quarterly report or just like a monthly report?
Well, it would be the whole, I guess, either quarterly or is there, if there's an annual report, I assume.
Is that called a graph?
Quarterly.
Annual by zip code so that we can pull the information out.
And actually, I mean, for me, all it takes is just a report and I'll do this, the spreadsheet and I can do the sorting and identify what's within our building.
Okay, yeah, if you would like to email me and there's something that you're specifically working for, I can actually pull whatever data you need. And if you need it organized by zip code, I can specifically request that information from the website and send you whatever it is you need.
Turnaround time for that.
In terms of getting the report done.
Yeah.
It's a matter of you emailing me and me responding. Yeah, I mean, if you need something, if it's urgent and you need something fairly quickly, I can dedicate my time to work on it. I do not mind. It's fairly simple for me. It takes me roughly like 15 minutes to pull. If you come with me with specified data that you need, I can in 15 minutes and organize it for you. Maybe we'll take another 30 minutes or something. I just need to know exactly what it is you're looking for and I can get that data for you.
And for those fire state councils that are put on together for dual more, anyway, it's a great resource and makes it really easy to meet.
You who don't know my email, grants@edcfiresafe.com is my personal work email. Questions in terms of chipping program, defensible space, grant. I'm still learning a lot of the grant stuff, but I can help you the best that I can.
No, and it's we're fortunate now. We've got Jessica and Carrie both in some capacity to help with this. But recognizing I'm guessing everybody's coming up against their mid-November deadline for the Firewise. So plus all the other work that she's doing. So just be cognizant of the time commitment and patience. And if you want that request and you need it, try to get it to her quickly and we can sort the time out. So with that, I want to move on to the Defensible Space Program. And just to frame this for everybody, this was the program that Jody was finished out. It was almost done when Jody moved. And so we had an arrangement that where Jody was continuing to finish out that part of the current projects so that we didn't have to go through a transition. And so has completed that. And Jessica's been kind of picking up, where she left off and trying to adjudicate where we've got any outstanding jobs that need to get done and how we may have, if there were any conflicts, et cetera. So it was a little bit bumpy towards the end as we were trying to finish that out, but we're super pleased as to where that's at. But from there, I do want to turn it back over to you, Jessica and Ernie, if you've got comments. Okay.
There's really not much else to say with Defensible Space other than we have officially completed the program. I know that the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council is going to be meeting after this board meeting to discuss further plans in terms of whether or not we want to reopen it or offer other opportunities with the leftover funds for the program. So hopefully by next month, we'll have more of an idea of what direction we're going to head with that, of whether or not we're going to reopen and allow people another opportunity to have services provided. But we're completely.
Do you have statistics on what do you have any numbers in terms of how many jobs? 194, I think.
Yeah, there was 191 and only last time, I think it was like 38. I can't remember exactly, but it was right under 40 jobs weren't completed due to lack of being able to contact the homeowner, not reaching back out to us, but our evaluators made multiple attempts in contacting them, and we also had lost the contractor that was helping, but another contractor had stepped up and closed out the rest of the job requests in a pretty good timeline.
Thank you, Jessica. Well, and as she alluded to, with some additional potential, we're going through the budget and looking into what funds may be left over with the existing grants, as well as and additional Title III coming here from the county. The county would like earmarked toward space. And talk through, what that might look like. The support for the program is growing, and obviously the need for it is growing. And so we've got to look at how we get the evaluations done. So we want to, when we reopen it, whenever that is, we want to make sure we've got a good organized process to be able to keep up with the load. So more to come on that program. So
just wanted to say, Chris Payne, Pedersen Ranch Fire Safe Council. This program is critically important. Ernie's done a remarkable job over the years running the program. Veterans, seniors, it was disheartening when I saw that we had to finish. We didn't have any additional funding, so we're actually finishing up projects that were already in the queue related to making it happen. But I've had, as a planning commissioner, I've had many people ask about the program, and I said, go to the website. And obviously, when you go to the website, it says that we're done. We don't have any more funding. But I just wanted to tell Jessica that I thought it was a critical program for seniors and for veterans. And I hope we, as a group, continue to offer it. Thank you.
thanks, Pat. Okay, with that, moving on to item 9C, education and outreach. Alice.
I think first of all, I have an email, so, the things that I'm asking you to do, you can use, email out to the private council, or probably, EDC,
No.
reach at edcfiresafe.org.
No.
And one thing I was especially interested in is newsletter articles, from the next newsletter will be coming out hopefully, before the end of October. And one of the focuses is gonna be home gardening, so if anything that your fire safe council is doing in that regard, I'd love to hear about it. Maybe if it's a short paragraph or something. Also, I'd like to do a quick little poll if I could. Do you know how many fire safe councils are on here and on there right now? Like about most of them or half of them?
No, do you have the kind of a list of how many board members? How many are, yeah, I don't, put me 2/3.
Yeah, that's.
Persons representing your fire safe council today, and you would be interested in borrowing things from the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council in Placerville for your events. If you could either raise your hand or put your reaction on the screen to give me an idea. Okay, so here. Yes. Okay, that gives me a good idea. And we're gonna probably have some people online. Thank you so much. And then the other thing is, for publications, we could either have a whole lot of them that are already printed, you just grab them from there, or have them online for you to print yourself. I'm sure it pushes easier for you.
Wrong email.
If you would prefer to have them where you just see them online and print them yourself, please raise your hand. Okay, and then instead, if you would rather have them available and go into the office and get them. Okay, thank you very much. That's all.
Alice, I need to correct you, and it's my fault because when Ron sent me that email, he didn't have the correct one. Jessica's got the right one, so your email.
Yeah, thanks. The correct email is outreach@edcfiresafe.onmicrosoft.com.
We're hoping to get rid of that on Microsoft stuff on there, so it wouldn't be so long, but apparently we didn't.
We'll get this out to everybody we'll get something out to the council, everybody with the correct one. So. Alice, thank you again for all of your engagement on this. 9D, new council formation orientation. Karen, anything new? We talked about Cedar Grove, of course. Okay, nothing new to report there.
Next month, probably.
Okay, so item 10, I know we're long in the tooth for the meeting. We're 11:33 for the time check for folks, but obviously want to give a chance for community council reports. So I put it out to the group and those online. Anything that you'd like to see shared? Janet.
Janet Berenson, Ockham Fairplay Fire Safe Council. We're holding our second Green Waste Day on November 6th, Sunday, November 6th at the Pioneer Park Community Center. We're very excited about having that second Green Waste Day. We're doing it on Sunday. Make sure that if anybody is interested, it's kind of a non-traditional day to do it, but that's the day we picked. And it is at the same time as the Harvest Festival. So if you come and bring us your green waste, you can proceed on and visit the wineries in the Fairplay area. They'd be happy to have your business.
You know what time that is, Janet? Just good.
9 to 4.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Karen from Mosquito Fire Safe Council. We're partnering with our Property Owners Association to put on a Halloween event that we've done in the past. We'll have a lot of information to hand out there as well. I did put a little postcard in the back. Bring your grandkids and your kids and come join us and have some fun. It'll be lit up and really nice. The scariest part will be coming up Mosquito Road.
That is.
What's the welcome. It's Halloween, so on Halloween first, yeah, at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Thank you.
Ernie, Lori.
Ernie Roy, Grizzly Flat Fire Safe Council. We've been a part of Wise community since '07. We just got renewed.
Congratulations. Let's see. I've got Paul Gilchrist, and then we'll go here online. Go ahead, Paul.
Thanks, Ken. Just wanted to report out that the Greater Cameron Park Fire Safe Council had partnered with the Cameron Park CSD to help them with their strategic plan in creating Firewise communities within the Cameron Park district. So I'm here to say that we got our first Firewise community done and set up in about a matter of 3 weeks time frame. It's the Sierra Rama Road Association off of Meter Road. They are now a Firewise community. Tomorrow night at the Cameron Park CSD, we are hosting an event on how to create and establish a Firewise community. The fire prevention bureaus from County Fire, El Dorado Hills Fire, and Cameron Park Fire and Rescue will be there as well, offering and providing what they will do to help neighborhoods and supporting them to become Firewise communities. And that's at 6 o'clock at the Cameron Park CSD tomorrow. Thank you.
Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Mary.
Oh, no, just click it.
You have to hold it down for a
A
second.
second.
There
There
you
we
go.
go.
Gary Cornelison, Peterbilt Fire Safety Council. We are recovering from the mosquito fire. We had 20 homes destroyed, about canyon from Oxnard, Reservoir. And fortunately, it was pretty held to the canyon side of Volcanoville Road. And so we activated, the chief activated our phone tree that we've had for years. And we think we saved 3 people from the fire.
Outstanding.
So anyway, we are continuing to educate our community. The chief hasn't captured the fire again. We had a big chili feed. We came and talked about what happened, how it happened, what we can do better next time. And we had 122 people attend that meeting. And so we're just going to continue to do our public education and fire prevention efforts.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, man.
Great work out there. Lester.
Just wanted to mention that the South County Fire State Council's reduction project are going to be doing some of their outreach, having outreach meetings with the public coming up in the next month. So several different ones that each
fire safe councils. And then the only other was just, Oak Hill area fire safe council also, just stuff was illegal.
Excellent work. Any other comments? Looking in the room, not seeing any, looking online. Okay, nothing there. Thank you. We have no old business today, so item 11. Item 12, project reports. Tamara, anything from your end on so far? Okay, and then I understand someone is here representing David. Let me start with whom that is. I didn't.
Yeah, she's right there. Right there.
Someone's representing David Zelinski for comments on so far. I know. Well, point well taken, Chris. Okay.
You, my website that has to do with RAP and so far. So there is a lot of information that's going out, and I'm going to speak to that in just in a second on the biomass. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And Lester's got his hand up.
Yeah, I'll just start real quickly, with so far. There was really, and if anybody's interested in going to the so far website, a great presentation by Scott Rogers, District Ranger on Placerville about the recovery efforts within the Caldor fire and the broader resiliency strategy for working on. And then the other is there's a wildfire recovery field trip scheduled for November 10th to look at these locations within the Caldor fire. Focuses more on kind of science around the recovery. Needs us coming and there will be information we will get to our website.
Thank you, Lester. So with that, with David's absent, we'll skip 12B and go right to 12C for biomass working group update. Chris.
Thank you. I talked to Greg Stanton. He's the person that was hired by the county to manage the biomass projects, the potential of the biomass project. He gave me this report. Black Oak Mine Unified School District did not get awarded the CAL FIRE grant, but they're meeting with the school district to revise the grant application and with feedback and to discuss future funding opportunities for that project. I'm speaking to the subject of biomass projects to be cogeneration that SPI Camino, they're going to hire a consultant to conduct a fatal flaw analysis. This is the precursor to a full feasibility study. SMUD has teamed up with a biomass company to clean hydrogen. Biomass to clean hydrogen company, submitting a grant application to the Department of Conservation by the end of the month. Feedstock will be sources from Sierra Nevada, including within EDC. Caldor Mobile Biomass Unit, Mobile Technology Demonstration Project in the Caldor Grizzly Flat area. This will be within the Burn Scar area. He also said this is a long story of which I found out some of it. There's a couple of companies called, and if those write their names down, Gold Seal Industries. It's also here Stonebridge Sustainability Solutions, and finally Market Forest Management coming together to do a technology called induction heating, superheating. It creates synthetic gas. It creates water capture to a high degree, a standard water, and then creates a commodity such as charcoal. So, and then this is zero emissions. They have mobility of a 53-foot trailer. They have many of these trailers now, so they can be put together and plugged in together. And they're self-powering, so you don't have to have any PG&E power to power them up. They create their own power. They'll process 500 tons per day of waste. And so that essentially, and then the final thing is we're looking at Union Mine to see whether or not there's enough methane coming off of it. It's been flared for a lot of years when it was closed down. That we're looking to see whether or not there's enough methane coming out of it. Because there's a project that Yolo County just implemented that has a company called Mainspring Linear Generator. And it uses methane gas off landfills. So there's a lot going on, Ken, and I believe our county is being part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, and echo that. My head's spinning. There's so much going on, but it's good. Chuck.
Question for Chris. FBI and the Camino, where do they do those logs going in there?
Those are essentially because they have so much space. That's just storage. If you leave them out in the forest, obviously they're gonna deteriorate faster if they're being taken care of. But they only have a certain amount of time to be able to deal with those logs. I believe after 18 months, then it becomes questionable whether or not they can be processed for logs. But they can be hauled to Lincoln because that's SBI's mill. And so that's kind of the story on that.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. I'm seeing no questions or comments here or online. Item number 13, public comment. Any comments from members of the public? Okay, seeing none in the room. Not seeing any online. Oh, okay. We can hardly hear you, Ken.
Oh, is that right? Oh, boy, I don't know what to do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know we have a couple of meetings coming up with the water agency, El Dorado Water Agency. One is on November 16th, which is our countywide plenary for water. And that one, it will be focused on some of the water resiliency and the nexus between wildfires, some of the community supports, watershed management, water supply. And so it's a big plenary we have with breakout groups on discussions for that. And then on November 18th, we have a grant from U.S. Bureau of Reclamation on the Upper American River watershed, where we're just putting together a watershed plan, the outline of a watershed plan that's really touching on some of the elements that Ken, that you introduced at the beginning of this meeting. So Ken, I think you'll be attending those meetings, and anybody else that is interested is welcome to attend too. So.
What time on the 16th?
The 16th is from 9 to 1 p.m. And on the 18th, it's 10:30 to 12:30.
Thank you, Ken. And yeah, for those, I didn't make the introduction there very well, but Ken Payne, Executive Director of the El Dorado Water Agency. And so, very engaged in a lot of activities going on, particularly in the most of the watersheds, all of the watersheds in the county. So definitely been partnering and having some discussions on many of the things he just talked about. So thank you for being here, Ken, and we'll just keep plugging you in.
Thanks, Ken.
Could you, Ken, could you reiterate the two meetings, what the locations are?
For the plenary on the 16th, we'll be at the fairgrounds. And and then the Upper American River watershed will also be on the fairgrounds. So we can get the exact addresses. We can forward that to you, Ken, and you can distribute that.
That would be great, and I'll get it out to the members.
Great.
Super. Thank you, Ken. Any other comments? Oh, great. Yeah, definitely a lot to talk about today, a lot going on. Thanks for your patience, for sticking it out a little bit longer. As we conclude the meeting we meet next on November 16th. And don't forget, in December, we're dark. We don't have a meeting in December. So put that on your calendars. And with that, we'll adjourn the October meeting of the Fire Safe Council. Thank you.
Oh.